Hi everyone, welcome to Amigos channel. Today we have Sparsh Juneja with us on our channel. He is working with TCS right now and he's a assistant systems engineer and he would be helping you to crack TCS and get a good job here. So he'll join in a minute or so and we'll start the session by 6 p.m. Hi Sparsh, welcome to Amigos.
Hi, thank you.
Sparsh, we'll be starting by 6 p.m. So we started early so that our friends and students can join the live session and take guidance from you to get into TCS. TCS, I believe,
Absolutely.
is one of the famous company that every student or engineer wants to go to.
Yeah, you can say that.
And I think your
Yeah,
experience is going to help a lot of people here.
yeah, absolutely. I think every college student has some doubts, and those things absolutely can be cleared, which the things that I've faced right now, the things, that I will see, and I can help those guys with that.
Yeah. Your entire experience is going to be really helpful. Not just the way you get into the TCS, but what you're doing currently. So, yeah, just waiting for 6 p.m. and then we'll start the session.
Absolutely.
Can we have a little introduction about you till then? So, what's your background, what you have done?
Okay, my background is like, as you know, currently I'm working in TCS. So it's been like just about over a year and a half since I'm here in TCS, and I will tell you all about the process that happens when you get placed in TCS, and after that, what happens? It's a long journey. So before coming to TCS, I in my final year of graduation, I did my internship from Samsung R&D, which has its campus in Noida.
Okay. And
So
you've done
for
your
so there,
engineering from which college?
I've done my engineering from Amity University, Noida.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, I've done a 4-year bachelor's program, and before that, I've done my schooling in Delhi, New Delhi.
Okay.
And yeah, after that TCS, that's all. That's been my working experience.
So, do you think that being from Delhi and being from MIT, I've heard that generally people have really good English, considering both the brands together. Is it true? Would you want to add something?
I mean, generally, there is a cliche thing that you can say that if you are from Amity, that means uh, like there is a general conception that if you are from Amity, then you have to have like a lot of money because one semester there you have to pay a lot of money, in that college. And Delhi being one of the metropolitan cities, you have to have a good communication skills to to survive in this environment, and to even just talk on the daily basis, you have to have, I mean, some sort of communication skills. I mean, those do
True.
help in your professional life, but I think this is some kind of thing that you can always pick up while you are studying, or even if you're not too good at it, you can always learn these sort of things up later in life.
True. So it's 6 p.m. Hi everyone, every student, every viewer we have on the channel right now. We have Sparsh Juneja. He has done his engineering from MIT University, Noida, and entire bachelor's program. Currently, he's working with TCS. He got placed on campus, so he's going to talk about his entire experience with TCS before, after, through. You can post all your questions on the comments below, and we'll try and answer each and everything possible. So coming back to you, Sparsh, I would want to first understand how it started. So TCS was the first company that came to your campus, or how was it?
Like usually, whenever the placement season starts, it depends on the college. A company
Okay.
like TCS, Accenture, Wipro, all these companies usually visit campus for about, they visit in cycles. So I got placed in the first cycle. Then after that, they came to the campus 2 or 3 times more.
Okay.
So usually you have a couple of chances, to sit down in the interview process and to get selected.
Okay.
Yeah. So usually I mean, not all companies, but these kind of companies do, visit the campus a couple of times. So,
Okay.
so what happened in Amity was it was a pool drive. So,
Hmm.
students all over, from all the colleges from Noida came to my college. So
Hmm.
there were around somewhere around 500 to 600 students there, and it was a long process. It took like the whole day, like from 9 a.m. in the morning to like 10 o'clock in the night. So it was a really
Oh
long
my God.
process. Yeah, because the students were so much that even if they brought around like what 13 panelists, and each panel had two people from TCS, still it took a lot of time because it had to go in rounds. They had to check all the documents and everything had to be in place before you can go to your first round. So how it started for me was, usually there are three rounds. I mean, they usually
Okay.
say that the first two rounds are technical and the third one is HR, but it's pretty informal and it generally depends on the panelist that you have there, that how he or she is going to conduct the interview. in
Okay.
my case in my case, the first one was technical. So in the first interview they looked at my CV and asked questions from that.
But do you
And
have
like
any aptitude test? We would want to understand from you. Do you have any aptitude test before your interviews? Was there any cutoff or any selection for the interviews, or everybody was invited for the interviews?
generally for companies there is an aptitude test, but for TCS
Hmm.
I don't there was no aptitude test for TCS. I mean, you
Okay.
just the criteria depends on the college. So my college had set a pretty, like, you have to have 7.5 CGPA. So anyone above that will be able to sit in the interview process.
Okay. How about people below 7.5 CGPA? They were not allowed, or they had to give the test?
No, below 7.5 CGPA you were not allowed to sit in the interview.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so these initial steps usually depends on the college. So if the college demands it, they will set aptitude test. I mean, generally, if they do set an aptitude test, it would usually be of about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, in which they will give you about 100 questions, and
Hmm.
you will have to just you won't have time to think. You just have to answer whatever you get, and mostly, I would say, if you are an average student, you will clear the aptitude test. It's not much of a problem.
We have a question here. There is any sectional cutoff in the aptitude test to clear it?
I mean, usually because of the volume, they don't tell you anything that what is the sectional cutoff or what is the overall cutoff. It depends in the moment. Like if there are about 100 people giving the test and all of them have performed poorly, then the cutoffs go down. And if the test is easy and everyone is performing well, so the cutoffs go up. So that
Hmm.
is usually the process. So it happens, like, the company is there, so it happens in the moment. Everything happens then and there.
Agreed. Agreed. So then you can move on to your first interview.
Yeah, I mean, so first first thing is when you reach the venue, they check all your documents. So every all the documents, all the things that you mentioned in your CV should be true, because anything that's false, they can detect it and later on it's going to be trouble for you. So anything
What
that
all
you mention in your
documents
CV,
they check?
well, usually because this process happens in the seventh semester or before the final exam, so they will ask all the semester sheets, all the final grade sheets, to check your CGPA and SGPA that we've mentioned, and all your certificates, which if some
Extracurriculars.
extracurricular and social service uh, experience that you mentioned in your CV, all those things you have to bring along with you.
Okay.
So, yeah, we had to sit there for quite a while, and then one by one they called each and every one. So it was usually what happens is some people do GD before an interview, so that they can
Hmm.
cut the herd, because there are so many people, they want to cut down to just the few who really they want to take, and then they take the interview. But here what I saw was they were taking interview of each and every person that was there,
Oh
because
my God.
yeah, it was really hectic. So there were about 13 to 15 panelists sitting in different rooms, and you just go there, and a room is randomly assigned to you, and you just go into the room, and some random employees will take your interview. So what In my first interview was technical. What they asked me was generally questions from my CV. Like I had
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that I had some experience in cryptocurrency because I had done an internship in my third year in a cryptocurrency startup which
Mm-hmm.
was based in Mumbai. So it was a work from home internship. And this is also a really great opportunity that you guys, Internshala is an app. So it's a really great resource that you guys can, take use of. You just have to go there. There are many companies, startups that have, listed their job openings there. You just have to go and apply to. There are a couple of questions that you have to answer. You just have to apply. And there is no, I mean, what's harm in applying? If they do select you, you get something good, and if they don't, then it's fine. You keep applying. So what? I mean, it's a
I
really
would
good.
want to I would want to add one thing here, not just Internshala. On our app, Amigos also, you can go and apply for internships. So you'll get a lot of internships there. So it varies from the domain you like, from web development to marketing, anything that you want, you'll get internships here also. So even if you want to try Sparsh, you can try it out. And we have all the paid internships on the app.
Absolutely. I mean, I will tell all the people watching that it is a really good thing to if you are, interning somewhere while you are studying in your college because it
True,
gives you something to talk about while you are sitting in that interview room. So
true, true.
people always notice these things. So it's always good to have something extra on your CV. And you also, I mean, you also get paid a couple of bucks, so that always helps.
True, true. Right. Perfect. So, what were the questions that were asked you in the interview, apart from cryptocurrency?
Like a couple of questions from my internships, a couple of questions from the projects that were happening, and a couple of questions from the subjects that we were studying currently in that semester.
Any
And
specific thing that one should prepare for, something like C, C++, Java? What would you recommend clearing this interview? What is essential?
this is absolutely random, I would say. I mean, to me, they did not ask anything related to programming. It was
Mm.
just about my internships and my projects. That's all that happened. But I did ask a couple of my friends. They were asked to write a couple of programs in Java or C++ or whichever language that they were comfortable in. So some panelists did ask some puzzles and you know asked to write the code. But this
Okay.
would absolutely be random because any interview panel can ask you anything. So you just have to be ready with everything that you can think of. It can just be a simple, I mean, they can just ask you your name and then send you and select you, or they'll have to, or they can ask you many puzzles, or you know, give you a code to write, and you can expect anything there. So yeah, it would be good if you prepare for the worst. So I would say it would be nice if you prepare a couple of general interview questions and puzzles that you can find anywhere on the internet. So it would be good.
How
Like,
about technical questions? Any books that you can recommend or anything specific for the preparation, especially technical, because I think that's where most people find maximum difficulty.
yeah, like on the internet, there are ample of resources available for technical questions. If you just write technical interview questions, you'll get ample resources. So those will be pretty much fine. And I would say, like the things that you are studying in your classes, that will be very much helpful. And I mean, you just have to be a little bit interested in what you are doing. Like if you are genuinely interested in C++, then they do notice that in you, and it will help you in that interview if they do ask you about anything like to write you a code or something like that.
Okay. And what happened next? You cleared the interview. So how did they inform you? How much wait you had to do?
So generally, people were called for 3 interviews. For me, it was just 2 interviews. The first one was technical, and the second one was HR. After my first
Okay.
interview, I was asked to just go and sit in the auditorium back. But a couple of my friends went in for like one more interview where they were asked technical stuff. Some were asked technical stuff, and some were just like random HR stuff. So my second interview was HR, and I was, I had to sit for quite a long time, and then my second interview was HR. In that, like the most important thing that they ask you is like you will have to work. Sometimes you may have to work on US. timings, like in the night or some odd times. So all they ask you is whether you are comfortable with that or not. And the next question that they ask you is if they send you somewhere that is not comfortable, that is not like your choose, like you have to fill uh, the cities where you'll be comfortable to work after you have, you've been placed. So they ask you that if you get a, if there's a vacancy in a city which you have not chosen, so will you be fine with that?
Which all
These are the
cities do
basic
they
questions.
send you to? Which all cities do they send you to?
I mean, there are all the major cities. I would say there is Hyderabad, Chennai, Bangalore, and Delhi,
Hmm.
Indore, and TCS is almost in many places. So you will get the place that you desire. And what I saw was, although they asked us to fill the preferred city, but almost everyone got their first choice only because, I mean, TCS is a large corporate and they can absorb any
True.
amount of labor. Yeah. So preference will not be a problem. Anything will be, one thing will be the timings. I mean, some of you will get placed in a project which is aligned to US or UK, so the timings may vary. So you have to be ready for that. But other than that, the HR round was just, asking for whether you will be able to do it or not. Are you sure you want to join the company? That was, these two questions were the basics.
Have you heard about TCS NQT? The test they
Yeah,
conduct to hire.
yeah, that happens afterwards. For, I mean, they were just introducing these things when I was giving the interview, so that happened later on. They have
Okay.
introduced, I mean, yeah, I'll get to that. They, first of all, when we were selected for the placements, then they asked later on, there is a training for about 2 weeks. So in the training, so for us it was different, and then after that they standardized it. So for me
Okay.
it was a little haphazard. I
Hmm.
did sit for the NQT, but it was after I got placed in the TCS. It was
Okay.
for some digital, it was for a digital profile. I will get to
Okay.
that also. But right now, I guess what's happening is they are asking you to sit for the TCS NQT before you
Okay.
sit for the placements, so that they can, judge you on your performance and all that. So, and now for the digital profile, it's really important that you perform well in the TCS NQT, and there is sectional cutoffs in that paper because based on that you will be eligible for the digital profile, from which you will be upgraded to the basic 3.66 lakh package to 6 or 8, or if you even go further to 12. So it's a really good
Oh,
opportunity if you want to increase your package right from the start. Yeah,
okay.
TCS is really much focusing on hiring people who know what they are doing. So digital is a really good opportunity if you know like how to code really well. So that's what they test in that examination.
So, how much test you have in this TCS NQT? What's the process? Can you explain this to our viewers?
TCS NQT is basically a 3 hour exam. So in that it will be general, like computer science related questions, basically like OS or databases and all the stuff that you've read in your curriculum. That would be the first section, and that is pretty easy to clear. You won't have any problem in that. The second section is coding. So there are two programs of, I think, 15 to 20 minutes each, which you will get a question, which you will have to solve in the given time. And I mean, they are around medium to difficult, depending on the day. I don't know. So those questions are pretty good, I would say, because I remember I was having quite difficulty answering those questions. So if you want to have any chance at clearing that exam, you have to have like a little bit of practice of competitive coding. So if you've heard about sites like HackerRank or CodeChef, those will be of
Hmm.
a really great help if you can practice on those sites beforehand, because just going there and doing would be really difficult.
Any specific book to refer or online questions would do?
No, online questions will be more than enough. Like I mentioned, HackerRank. So it's a really great platform if you will look it up. So you can just go there and practice competitive coding, and it will really improve your, I mean, time. There's a time limit also, so you have to keep in mind that you are working against time. It will really help with that. And the puzzles are not, I mean, even if you know what to do, when you are sitting there doing in the exam pressure, it gets really difficult. So you have to practice that also. So it will be really great if you can practice beforehand. So HackerRank will be of big help for that.
What was the next section? Only two sections, or there were more?
They were just, when I was giving the exam, there were just two sections. Right now,
Okay.
maybe they have changed the pattern a bit, so it will be good if you can, look it up on the internet before going.
Okay.
So like the first thing that you had to do was clear the NQT exam. After
Okay.
that, all those who cleared the sectional tests had to give another exam,
Hmm.
which was the digital exam. In that, there was only coding and nothing else.
Oh God.
So yeah, so then you had to clear that digital exam where you had two pretty difficult codes from what I heard from my friends, because I did not clear the sectional cutoffs in NQT. So after that digital exam, there is an interview by a pretty tough panel. Then after that, you are inducted into digital. So it's a pretty tough process if you want to improve your package. So it will be really helpful if you start preparing, early on, start getting in that practice of coding, of of that interview environment where you have to come up with questions and puzzle answers right there and there. So it will be really helpful if you start early.
So when you gave NQT, which all batches were eligible? So your current batch and previous batches also, or what was the eligibility criteria?
Eligibility criteria, I mean, it depended on the university mostly, but you could have filled the form from outside also. I mean, you basically filled the form from outside. Even
Okay.
if you cleared, even if you were from like third year or so and you did clear NQT, but after that the college will come to your campus, and then that will be useless because they will not let you, the college will not let you sit in the interview process. That did happen in my time. Like I have seen people who have given, like younger than me, who have given NQT, but they were not allowed to sit in the interview process. So that you can always give because it will be good practice, but yeah, it will be a waste because you will not be allowed to sit.
Okay. So you cleared the TCS interview in which month, and you got joining for which month?
So it was quite a wait. I guess I cleared the interview somewhere in around November or December, mid November or mid December. And so you don't know when you will join. It is, so you are basically just told that, okay, you are selected, and after that, you don't know what's going to happen. Then, then I got the information somewhere around April that I have to join somewhere around June. So 3rd of June was my date of joining.
Okay.
And I did not get to know that anywhere before April. So after you've been selected, it's, you just have to chill. You cannot do anything about that. It's totally random sometimes, and it's not even like your whole batch will be called all together. Each and every person gets a different date of joining, and like all of my friends who got selected with me in TCS, we all got different dates of joining. I got 3rd June, someone got August, someone got July, so it was all different. And you will even get different locations. So
Okay.
when you join, for the first 2 weeks you have training in TCS. Like
Okay.
it is basically everyone has to go through it. It's right now, because of cost cutting, they are mostly doing it local. Like I'm from Delhi, so I did my training in Gurgaon.
Okay.
But previously, what they used to do was they used to send people to all these specialized training centers in Trivandrum and Ahmedabad and all these places where they used to train people for almost like a month or a month and a half. Like it was a pretty good training. But now, because there are some problems and there is some cost cutting, so they are basically doing it for 2 weeks only, and it's mostly local. I mean, some of my friends did go to Trivandrum and Ahmedabad, but mostly it was local. And in
Sparsh,
those 2 weeks,
I have two questions from our friends. One is that for NQT, will 2020 batch be eligible? I think the answer is yes. So in this year, this current batch would be eligible, right? Or it will be for 2021.
yeah, 2020 batch will be eligible for this year.
Okay. And
So
if you are from mechanical engineering, is there any chance for you to get into TCS? A friend of ours has asked this question.
yeah, absolutely. There is no, I mean, if you are from mechanical, if you are from, chemical, ECE, EC, whatever, you are able to sit in TCS and they do select you. I mean, mostly if you are passionate about what that you want to get into this field, so there is no problem whether you're from mechanical or electrical or whatever. And
True.
it also depends on your college. If they do allow people from different streams to sit in the interview, then there is no problem.
Okay. So you did your 2 weeks, approximately 2 weeks training in Gurgaon. So the training consisted, what was your daily routine in the training, and what all did you learn there?
Yeah, like after you get to know that you have been selected, there is a quite from, like I said, from December to April, I had to wait for my call. So it was really uncertain. In April, I got to know that I had my joining on 3rd of June. So because I had filled Delhi as my preferred city, so I was inducted in Delhi itself. So basically, there are, like, I would say 7 to 8 campuses of TCS in Delhi NCR itself. So
True.
that includes Delhi and Noida and Gurgaon. Yeah, that these three places TCS has around 8 to 9 offices. So you can move around these 8 to 9 offices. You will be like randomly allocated to any of these offices. There is quite a long process, although I would say, but let me first talk about the 2 week training that we go through. Though that training is basically web based training, you go to the TCS campus. There will be a teacher that will like induct you in the office. There will be document verification on the first day. They will give you a docker from the company. They will tell you everything. Like a senior member from the TCS will tell you everything about the company, its culture, and it will be a really great session on the first day. And then they will just try to make you comfortable in that environment. So on the first day there'll be not much to do. You'll just go there, you'll get your documents verified, and you know see where you have to go for the next 2 weeks, because it might be anywhere. So it might be far from where you're coming from. So the first day is basically you get used to the place that where it is. So from the second day the training starts. The training is basically everything that you had done till now. It was basically a Java training, and it was a little bit of operating systems and a little bit of databases and a little bit of company culture, values, and ethics. It was a good mix of things. Previously, it used to happen. It There were lectures, but right now, in my time, they were only web-based training. So you had to go there, sit in a computer lab, and look at courses that were given there. So you had to sit with your. I mean, obviously, you will go there and you'll meet people. You'll make friends who will be with you. So the company, they might get placed in the same project as you, but yeah, you make some good friends at that time. You sit with them and you like study there. It's a good 2 week thing. And after, so what you study is basically, like I said, only programming. All they want is that you should know what you are going to do. So what they teach you is Java. They teach you SQL. These two things are like the pillars of TCS. If you know Java and SQL, then you will basically be able to survive there.
Sparsh, I have two questions for you. So anything on C and Python, is that are these languages important? Should somebody study these to crack the interview or to get comfortable in TCS?
I mean, if you know these languages, then it's really, I mean, there's no problem. C is a precursor to C++. So if you do know C, then you will not have a problem with any other language, because I would say C is a pretty tough language to learn.
Okay.
And Python, I would, if I would say in the market, Python is there, but in TCS, the market is very, very small. I would say if you are selected in TCS, then there is a pretty small chance that you'll get in the team that works in Python. Even if you try to change the project after all, it's a pretty hard process. So even if you know Python, it's a good thing. It is what's like the latest fad that's happening right now. Python is everything, all the data analysis and everything is happening in Python. So it's really good that you know Python. But Java is what is being used in TCS right now. So that is most probably what you will be working on there. So I would say Java is what you have to focus on.
So one interesting question I have for you. Is there any difference in salary that you get in this training period? An engineer, a student is interested to know.
In this training period, in this
Yes.
training, okay. Like for the first, yeah, there is difference in salary because you are a trainee then. So I would say for the
Hmm.
first, because this is a 2 week thing.
Hmm.
After the 2 week, you get your first salary. So that is like
Hmm.
almost half of what you will get in a month. So I got my first salary. It was around 12,000, somewhere around 12,000, because your first full time work will fetch you around 23 to 24,000 a month. Because for the first whole year, you are still a trainee. What designation you have is Assistant Systems Engineer Trainee for the first whole year. After that, the trainee sign goes, and then there is an increment in salary. And that's when it becomes 2.6 to 26, 27,000. Before that, it's 24 to 25. And in the training period, you do get paid. So it will be somewhere around, it depends also for how long you are being trained. If it's somewhere around 20 to 25 days, you will get a full month salary of 20,000. Because for me, for my batch, it was just around 2 weeks, so I got paid the half. It was around 12,000. So yeah, you do get paid.
But I think it's good if currently you're getting trained in the training period and you get money for getting trained. So I think anything that you get is pretty much bonus for you, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's like an incentive for coming there. So I mean, it's pretty hard after you've gotten placed, you've left college, you've chilled for about 3 to 4 months. Then after that, you have to come to this strange place and sit there and study. So I mean, it requires a lot of hard work. So there has to be some incentive. So that's that incentive.
Agreed. Totally agree. So moving on next. So after you complete your 2 weeks, how did the project got allotted to you?
Yeah, after the training, the allocation of project is a pretty random process, I would say,
Hmm.
because I mean, after you are done with your training, you you go to the main office of TCS, which is somewhere close to Rashtrapati Bhavan. It's called
Hmm.
it's called the TCS Building One, and it's like the main head office headquarters of TCS where you go to get allocated in a building or a project. So after your training is done, I mean, all these things are like random, because for some people, what I've heard is all these things happens very differently. So your training might stretch for a month or more, or maybe it will, get shrink to just a week, or maybe after completing your training, you will not be called to the main building for quite a long time, maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. So because it's a big corporate and there is a structure to it, so this structure and bureaucracy usually delays a couple of things which happen. So all these things can happen differently for you people. So I'm just sharing my experience what happened to me. So please don't worry even if it happens differently for you guys. It I mean it will definitely happen. So that it's not like they'll just drop you after giving you training. So after my 2 weeks training,
But a lot of people I heard they sit on bench also. Can you please throw some light on it?
yeah, I would say sitting on bench is also a pretty voluntary process. If you do not want to work yourself, or maybe if you are just looking to, you know, go, if you are just in a TCS by chance and you are trying somewhere else giving interviews, so you can tell them that I don't want to work in a project, I just want to be on the bench. And it also depends on the availability in the projects. Sometimes if you are, like, if you do want to work and maybe there is no vacancy in any project, so you will be put on bench. But right now there is a lot of vacancy, so that won't be a problem that you will put on bench. So
Okay.
after like my 2 weeks of training, I had to go to the main building where they will first allocate you to a, I mean, there are sections to what TCS is working in. TCS is a consultancy company and they work for a lot of different sections, sectors. I would say there's a banking sector, there is insurance sector, there is healthcare, and there inside department for handling the tickets. They call it ultimates department. There is that department, and there are various other. There are around 8 to 10 different sectors where they will split you into. So when you go to that building, the first thing that they will do, they'll tag you to a project. So I was tagged into BFSI, which is Banking and Finance Insurance. So then after that, I will be allocated to a project in BFSI. But for the first day when I went there, they just allocated me to a sector. And some of my friends were allocated to healthcare. Some went into Ultimatics section. Some went to aeronautics or something. I mean, there are very TCS is into varied things, and you
Multiple,
get,
yes, multiple.
yeah, there are multiple projects with TCS. So that's also a good learning experience. But there is also a catch. I would say mostly there are projects where you get to code. Like if you do want to code, like you do want to hardcore, want to like test and write code and all that stuff, there is like a probability to it that you will get what you want. I mean, after you've done your training, being allocated to the right sector is also really important, because I would say that I was lucky to be allocated to BFSI because BFSI had projects that required coding. Other sectors did not have project that required coding. So many of my friends were just sitting and doing workstation work or something else which was not relevant to what they had bargained for. So it's also pretty, it's kind of a lucky draw thing that happens after you've trained there. And it was a pretty shock for me to see all that, because I mean, you've worked for it and everything, then after that it's pretty random what happens there. I would say I mean, I will say that I got lucky in quite two or three instances when I got selected in TCS. So after I went into BFSI, the next day you have to go there and they will allocate you a building, either in
Okay.
Gurgaon, either in Noida, somewhere you will be allocated. And then there you have to go to what they call RMSs. So then when you visit that building later on, the RMS will allot you to a project. That will be a long process thereon. So getting into TCS is not hard, but being allocated to a project, that is pretty tough, I would say, because then the interview thing happens again. I will get to that in a minute. So after like you've been allocated to a sector like BFSI, for me, I was allocated the Gurgaon building number 6. So it is somewhere in the Gurgaon to Faridabad highway. So the hardest thing is getting there. From where I
True.
live in New Delhi, getting to that place is like a miserable task. It takes me around 2 hours to get there in the morning. So
Oh
it was
God.
really, yeah, it was really hard. Just getting there was a task. So after you've been allocated to a sector, and when you go to the building that you're allocated to, then you meet the managers there for the project that you're going to work in. After being allocated to BFSI, then also there are clients. Like in banking, there is Deutsche Bank that TCS works for, that
Hmm.
TCS has projects for, and there is Royal Bank of Scotland, and there is Citibank. There are There's one more bank that the name I'm forgetting. So these four banks TCS has projects for. You'll be allocated to any one of these. Here also I got really lucky because Deutsche Bank is like the one which had
Best.
coding projects. Yeah, the one which was giving, you know, freshers
Hmm.
an opportunity to code. So I got into a project of Deutsche Bank, and even after that, you have to give interviews. Like different project teams sit on different floors of the building, so you had to go to each team. You had to meet the manager there who sits in for that team. Then you have to give an interview to one of the member of that team. Then they will decide whether you're selected for the project or not. So for Deutsche Bank, I had to move from like around 3 to 4 teams before I was selected for a team. So those interviews are pretty hard. What they were asking, harder than what I had given to get into TCS. So what those guys were asking for was proper Java knowledge, like hardcore Java, hardcore SQL. Like the team that I'm working for right now, my manager sits in London.
Hmm.
So what happened to me when I was giving my interview was he was on the call. He had called from London, so he was taking my interview. So he asked me to write a code in SQL. He gave me a scenario, tables, and told me like what will happen if I want to fetch this column. What will I do? It was like a puzzle kind of an SQL question. So I had to write the code there. There was a team member sitting who oversaw me doing. I had to explain all the process that I was doing there. So after that, they took me in the team if they were satisfied. So before that, I was rejected for about 3 teams rejected me because I mean they basically what they want is Java and SQL. If you
SQL.
are good in yeah, so for the previous teams asked questions on Java and not just any Java, also Java version 9, which was pretty latest. And there are many new things introduced in Java 8 or Java 9, which you had to be up to date with. So they were asking about all those things. So I was not able to answer that. So, but I did get into this project, which is also pretty good. So like this is like the whole process that you had to go through. Even after you cleared the initial interview, then you sit for your training for the 2 weeks. Then you have to be allocated to a sector. After the sector, you will get into a project. Then into a project. Then you will get into a team. Then in that team, when you are finally settled, that's when your real training
You
starts.
started.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So all these things are just their bureaucracy and all that stuff. So when you are in the project, that's when your real training starts.
Thank you, Sparsh. Just one last question I have. A friend of ours is asking that is mechanical project. So, for example, self-propelled onion harvester help in IT industry?
I mean, yeah, it's a good question. It will certainly not help you in the IT industry, but it certainly can help you in the interview. I mean, it's something different, and you can always, you know,
Bank upon.
yeah, yeah, you can always. I mean, they'll be really interested in someone who does things differently because there are many coders and many people who just know Java and SQL and stuff. They can always teach you Java and stuff, but what they look for is something different in the candidate. So that is pretty different. So it's really nice.
Thank you so much, Sparsh. I think you have answered all my questions and everything so perfectly and in detail that I'm sure that it is going to help thousands and thousands of students going
I'm
forward
glad.
for TCS. Anything else that you want to mention? Any guidance or advice from your side? And then we'll end the session.
I mean, my guidance will be that do what you are passionate about. That can be anything, even if you are at this stage of your life. That if you are if you are in mechanical or computer science or electrical, if you're passionate about the IT game, then you can always come to this sector. If you are like this far in your career and you are interested in something else, then you can always change your career. I would say follow your passion. That is what is going to help you later on.
True, true, very true. Thank you so much, Sparsh. All the really best for your future with TCS and any endeavor you want to do in your life. Thank you so much for making out time and coming to Amigos. We really
Thank,
appreciate your time.
thank you for having me. Thank you.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye. See ya.